Obey the Lord. I want to obey him and speak. The Lord said he will shake the nations again. I heard the Lord saying that there's another shaking. He will shake the nations again. Listen with this. Strange floods and hurricanes. Let me say it again. God said he will shake the nations again. He's saying if we don't get it, if we don't get the message behind Corona, he is going to shake the nations again with strange floods, not the word, strange floods and hurricanes in strange places where these kind of things I've not seen before. I see great waters. I'm talking about great waters, height of waters. Water that is high, very, very tall. He said it will shake the nations again with great floods and waters. Okay, great floods and waters. Strange floodings and great waters in strange places that people do not expect them to show up. And he says it will shake the nations again. This is not just America. He says nations. I will shake the nations again with strange floods, strange height of waters.
Flooding emergency. Thousands forced to flee their homes overnight. Alex Perez starts us off in Chicago with the latest. Good morning, Alex.
Hey, good morning, Michael. Take a look behind me. You can see just how swollen some waterways are across parts of the Midwest this morning. People are struggling with problems created by relentless rain.
Be advised that the Sanford Dam is about to fail. Please evacuate to a safe area.
This morning, catastrophic flooding in the Midwest. Central Michigan, one of the hardest hit areas after at least 2 dams have collapsed under the force of days of torrential rains. The roaring floodwaters easily taking down trees and barreling towards towns downstream.
Oh my God, somebody's house.
Watch as the swift rapids carry away the roof of this home like a piece of driftwood.
The dam has failed. 100% failure. Evacuate the area.
The rising waters is stretching for miles, swallowing up entire neighborhoods and forcing more than 10,000 to flee their homes.
All of that is soon to be up here. This is going to be underwater.
With downtown Midland expected to be under 9 feet of water this morning, the governor declaring a state of emergency and lifting COVID-19 restrictions to ease evacuations and rescues.
We are anticipating an historic high water level. To go through this in the midst of a global pandemic is almost unthinkable.
Since last Thursday, the Midwest hammered by heavy rains, with some areas receiving more than 8 inches, leading to flooded farms in Ohio. And in Chicago, watch as this garage swiftly fills with water, damaging almost 150 cars inside. The city experiencing its wettest May on record.
Yeah, good morning, guys. It's still raining a little bit out here, but luckily those floodwaters are starting to recede out on the streets. This is a parking lot turned lake here in the northeast side. This is in the Cleveland Innes Plaza just off of Cleveland Avenue. You can see the completely flooded with water. That car in the middle there kind of stuck in the middle, and we know that it's at least inches deep in parts of this, if not close to a foot deep in some areas. We did see cars being towed away from Cleveland Avenue earlier this morning when we got here just before 4 o'clock this morning. Now, the water has gone down. They've reopened Cleveland Avenue, but this is what it looked like earlier this morning. Just a few hours ago, cars submerged in several feet of water up and down several blocks in front of this Northern Lights Plaza and in front of this fast food restaurant. Cars stuck in areas. We even saw a person bail out of their car, start walking, that water coming up to at least his knee.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Welcome to the show this Wednesday. I'm Julia Chatterley, and we begin with breaking news. A massive cyclone making landfall in eastern India near Bangladesh. It's one of the most powerful storms ever recorded in the Bay of Bengal. Millions of people have been forced to leave their homes with widespread damage expected. CNN senior international correspondent Sam Kiley has all the latest for us. Sam, terrible at any time, terrible at a time of social distancing during a pandemic. Really, really tough. Talk us through what we know so far.
Well, Julia, you're absolutely right. A very, very major double blow to Bangladesh and India as this storm makes landfall. Just in the last hour or so, the storm has broken out of the sea, if you like, onto land, just more or less on the border between West Bengal and Bangladesh, we understand. The good news is that the power of the storm that had been the equivalent of a Category 5 hurricane or a super typhoon equivalent when it was a very deep cyclone out in the Bay of Bengal has dissipated somewhat to the equivalent of a Category 2 hurricane. So that means that wind speeds, though, are at 100 miles an hour, 160 miles an hour, where the eye of the storm is hitting. In Calcutta itself, they've been recording 100 kilometers an hour. People are losing obviously the roofs of their houses, the trees are coming down, crops are very importantly at this time when there's been such a lockdown in India and Bangladesh are being destroyed. But in the case of Bangladesh, 2.4 million people have been evacuated from the path or the presumed path of this storm.
Take a look at the flooding out there. NBC6's Amanda Placencia joins us now with more on the mess out there on the roads this evening. Amanda.
Yes, Jawan. Well, it is a soggy Memorial Day, and with all of this rain comes the floods. This is the situation right here in Edgewater. You can see a lot of flooding. This is actually a bit better than an hour ago, but still lots of flooding, those heavy puddles. This is along Biscayne Boulevard, just south of Northeast 15th Street. Now, just a few blocks north, water was also up to car doors along Northeast 17th Street and Biscayne Boulevard as well, creating a lot of slowdowns. And we saw one vehicle being towed away from all that water damage. Now, viewers also sending us many pictures and videos all across Miami-Dade and Broward. Some cars were stuck as they try to wade through the floods, causing some waves in parts of Brickell. Windshield wipers also getting a workout today as dash cam video captured this flooding on Biscayne Boulevard in Northeast Miami-Dade. Now, Miami Beach also no stranger, of course, to floods. They have become notorious for all that water. They became a waterlogged mess. This is near Alton Road and 13th Street as water was well above the curbs and sidewalks. And in Hollywood, the scene was also similar with a flooding. A U.S. Postal Service truck also got stuck in the middle of the street as they couldn't get any further thanks to all the water and that flooding. You could also see a few people were trying to push that truck back to higher land, to some dry land. But of course, all of this flooding causing some major headaches today. There's nothing dry in sight today. So again, just be careful on the roads. If you are driving, do not put your hazards on. That, of course, is a hazard. So just be safe while driving on the roads. Live in Edgewater, Amanda Placencia, NBC6 News.
All right. As far as my house, it goes to my neighbor's house, but not usually up to mine and over the curb where I'm at.
Des Plaines residents keeping a nervous eye on the rising river level at Black Hawk Estates subdivision. Brian Montero says first it was COVID-19, now it's this.
It makes things more difficult, and it makes people just feel worse than they already do, staying locked up and not forcibly having to stay in just because the water is building up in this area. It's not even I can't imagine how the kids feel. They're probably very frustrated, and the parents are just upset by everything that's happening already.
It's a no-wake zone off the Edens with vehicles plowing through the stormwater runoff. Countless motorists stranded in the high waters with firefighter EMTs making multiple rescues. It began across the Chicagoland area as a fierce electrical storm. Torrential rains quickly following, stranding this terrified family on the roof of their car near Lincolnwood. Local fire departments once again performing potentially treacherous rescues. Homeowners everywhere going down to the basement to find this, a Lincolnwood man who didn't want to reveal his identity telling the story.
So I'm like, I opened the door and then I saw like at least 3 feet of water just gushing through me. So it was like just jumping into a pool or something.
On I-290 near Elmhurst, cars and trucks plowing through standing water, and the city of Chicago not immune to the problems. Firefighter rescuers leading this motorist at 47th and Shields Avenue to higher ground. Lakeshore Drive near Montrose, another problematic area. Now, the nearly 4 inches of rain that fell in the overnight hours is the most rain to have fallen on a May 14th in Chicago history. In Lake County, Julian Cruz, WGN News.
Thank you, Julian.
The message is that the whole West Coast is at risk.
There's a large cold front sweeping up from the south and 2 low-pressure systems bearing down from the north, threatening to combine, smashing the top of the state early before pelting Perth in the evening and Monday.
It's from a different angle. So normally our storms come from the southwest. This is going to come from the northwest. So it'll test people's buildings, sheds.
Parts of the system have already drenched Christmas Island, and 24 hours out, it's being compared to this. A 2012 storm that wreaked havoc across Perth. The next 2 days could be no different. Damaging winds reaching 130 kilometres an hour are forecast, with flash flooding across the coast, possible heavy hail, and colossal 8-metre swells out at sea.
Do not go out in the water. We don't need our marine rescue volunteers' lives put at risk by people taking...
Here at NOAA, we're predicting a 60% chance that the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season will be above normal. There's a 30% chance of the season being near normal, and only a 10% chance of it being below normal. Overall, this year's outlook reflects several climate factors that are conducive to increased hurricane activity, including the ongoing high-activity era that has been in place since 1995. We are predicting ENSO-neutral or La Niña conditions, along with warmer-than-average sea surface temperatures in the tropical Atlantic Ocean and Caribbean Sea, coupled with reduced vertical wind shear, weaker tropical Atlantic trade winds, and an enhanced West African monsoon. Hurricane preparedness is critically important for the 2020 hurricane season, just as it is every year. Keep in mind, you may need to adjust any preparedness actions based on the latest health and safety guidelines from the Centers for Disease Control and your local officials.
Here's a problem. When God speaks something like that on May 11th, he spoke it, and now we are beginning to see waters are coming from nowhere, floods everywhere. Now, if you ignore the word of the Lord, it's to your own peril. You know, if you're watching this and you're living near where there is waters, let me repeat it again. If you're watching this and you're living near where there's a lot of water, great waters, beach and a lot of property of oceans and things like that, I want to tell you if you are living near many waters, you're living near lakes, rivers, oceans, I want you to be precautious about this. I want you to move away. Again today, as I was praying before I came into this service, the Lord spoke to me and he said, that warn the people who are living close to waters, warn the people who are living close to dams, lakes, rivers, oceans. The Lord said I should warn you so that you can move away from those areas. Even if it's for a season, move away there. Move away from those areas because there's going to be strange floods. Now, I had the weather people saying, there's a Hurricane Arthur, and they're saying Hurricane Arthur is a tiny little hurricane and it's not gonna, amount to anything. And many of them are actually ignoring the words, the warnings that the Lord has given. So here I am again today as I was praying. The Lord said, warn them not to pay attention to the weather people. In this season, don't pay attention to the weather people because there's going to be strange storms, strange hurricanes, and strange floods in strange places. This is just a foretaste of what is coming. I believe God in a week's time was able to manifest this much flood just to let us know what is coming. All right, this is going to be a season of a lot of hurricanes. Now, let nobody tell you that, oh, that's just a little hurricane. I tell you, don't despise the warnings of the Lord.